We had such a good time putting it together. It was a real stone soup affair because I've never written anything, or I've never directed anything that I didn't write. So going into it, it was kind of like, I don't know, is this the one that you're going to do it with, or if you said you'd never do it, and if you're going to do it, do you really want to do it, with a script, with a buddy cop movie? And I don't know, it just appealed to me because that's the kind of movie I grew up watching. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember thinking about like Spielberg and Lucas whenever they talked about Raiders of the Lost Ark, they would talk about like we're just trying to take the cliffhangers from our youth and make our version of that, like kind of modern western or kind of modern day serial, if you will. And that's what I kind of was like. Well, maybe I could approach this movie, which was called A Couple of Dicks at that point. Maybe I could approach this flick with the same kind of ethos, where you're just like, well, I'm just going to try to make my version of that movie that I saw so many times when I was a kid. And it was never the aim that I ever had as a filmmaker. Or, I was never like, man, one day I want to grow up and make the buddy cop movie. But I've been making buddy movies since the beginning, like Dudes in Love. And this is just a movie about cops in love, kind of, with each other, but who just aren't gay yet. We save that for the sequel.
Now, I was going to say, now, is it less pressure or more pressure on you when you're directing a film, for the first time, not having written it? What was that like for you? Not pressure do you have when you're directing a film for the first time that you haven't written?
For me, you go into every other flick that I've ever written, I go into it with an idea that I built in my head of what the movie looks like from the moment that I started writing it. So you come in with a preconceived notion, kind of movie shot in your head. And because of that, you tend not to be very collaborative. For years, I was the guy that was just like, don't do any dialogue that's not on the page. If it's on the page, it's right there. Just do that dialogue. What are you making up dialogue for? So there, and also in terms of shooting it, I would always just be Dave, my DP, would want to try something different, and I'd always be like, I just need this, dude. It's just people talking. Don't go crazy. On this movie, since I didn't create the material, since I didn't write it, I just didn't feel that sense of authorship where I could definitively walk onto a set and be like, you're all wrong because I created this. I know. This time around, I was kind of translating somebody else's work. And because of that, I knew I'd never be the foremost authority. You know what I'm saying? I knew I would never be the dude who could be like, this is this and this is that. I would need the writers for that. So I said, like, well, if I could bring the writers on, then I'll always have someone to turn to. Because, like, at one point with Good Will Hunting, Ben and Matt and even Harvey was like, do you want to direct when we brought the script in? And I was like, this movie's way too good for me. Like, you got to put this in the hands of a master. This is a good script. Because I said, I'll just defer to the boys because the boys wrote it. And I'm a writer first and foremost before a director, so I'll just always turn to the boys and be like, hey, man, what'd you see when you wrote it? And they would tell me, and then I'd be like, all right, I'll try to shoot that. Did that make it?